This is Zephyr here, and today I went to the state courts in Singapore to witness, and I'm reading off a CNA article here, so I might be scrolling with my right hand, so pardon me if you see that, to witness the trial against Healing the Divide founder Iris Koh Xiaopei, 49, sorry if I'm getting that pronunciation wrong in Mandarin, Dr. Gibson Kwa, 37, and Dr. Kwa's then clinic assistant, Thomas Chua Cheng Soon, 43. I'm reading off an article called Healing the Divide Chat Group Healing the Divide Chat Group member testifies about how he was offered saline for COVID-19 vaccine. This article was written just yesterday, and I believe that's why it came up in my feed or somewhere online, caught my attention. Written yesterday or published yesterday, 28th August 2025, first written 6:18 p.m. and then published at 11 p.m., republished by, or updated rather, by a very lovely looking lady called Lydia Lam. I don't believe I saw her in the courtroom today. Apparently she writes for CNA. Now, what really intrigued me here was that the doctor looked kind of familiar, and Iris have been following her work for some time now on social media, and her speaking and her sharing about various topics and issues. The doctor's assistant, I have not seen him before, but this line, and I'm just scrolling here, really piqued my attention late last night, about 2 a.m. And I was up taking some medicine. I just come back from the doctor for a little tummy bug. That's the same reason I'm sitting down today and making this video. It's been a long day in the court. And the line was that Mr. Chong said he was inclined to treat Mr. Lim as a hostile witness. I'm assuming here Mr. Chong is the cross-examiner, the lawyer. I'll just say lawyer for layman terms, right? To make it easy for everybody to understand. Mr. Lim being the person referred to in the headline, which is the person who had a job driving a taxi. I believe I'm getting this correct. He was a chat group member in the group Healing the Divide. I think I was in that group for some time or maybe I just saw it on Facebook, but I attended one of the Zoom calls, and it was very enlightening, actually. I learned quite a lot of things there. So the article describes about how he had to go and get his jab. He was a bit worried about taking unknown vaccinations and not knowing what's inside there. My view personally on unknown chemical substances is the same. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'll link my video which talked about the mandatory new sort of law that the government updated apparently in the last few years. I'll put the link of that video in the YouTube description as well. If you're on TikTok, you can just scroll around and find it. It should be there. It's probably the video with the highest views on my page. The rest have a few hundred views. That one has, I think, a few thousand. And so, they say in the article that he had a conversation and he was choosing a non-mRNA vaccine and so on. And then it gets really interesting. It says he was confused. It says in the article that Dr. Gibson offered him a choice or gave him some, asked him to look. Dr. Kwa placed the tubes of saline next to 2 boxes of Sinopharm and asked him to check the expiry dates. I don't know the full story, obviously. And if we're going from a science first principles approach, at least I think it's called first principles, only Dr. Kwa will be able to answer that. And I strongly, firmly believe, I know there's many people on earth who, when you describe a topic, and I tend to be into spirituality, and here's a whole pile of books on spirituality and other business things. People say like, oh, it needs to be proven, peer-reviewed, whichever board on planet Earth needs to certify this to be true, blah, 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 blah. I'm of the view that human beings have a high level of intelligence inside us. And if something is true in my experience, and let me just take something esoteric, like let's say I see a ghost, or let's say I speak to a guide for a client, a spirit guide, which I do, by the way. Now, if I say that I spoke to the spirit guide, I spoke to the spirit guide, according to me. You may say, no, I don't see proof that that person spoke to the spirit guide, so I don't want to believe that. Believe what you will, right? And that line of reasoning and theory actually leads to a lot of flaws then. If we understand that, it can lead to a lot of flaws in many legal systems worldwide and government systems and law systems, because if we trust the individual to say something and that it's true for them, right? One can say that, hey, then no legal system would work, because then how does an authority come in and say, no, that's not true, right? And so obviously, this is a very big topic, so I'm not going to go into that today. But what I will say is that I also do agree spiritually that there are many, many systems on earth that don't work. And that's why we come across little issues like the one I just described. And there are such issues all over planet Earth. Now, somebody who is in the system or works in the government or in law or whatever, even the buses, the trains, and they may say, hey, Zephyr, of course there are going to be issues everywhere. And I agree. That's life. It's not perfect. So maybe some systems are good to sort of, move a large population of people, like 6 million, for example, forward. However, personally, I have a problem. And when I say problem, I feel hurt or I feel pain, or I feel sadness as an empath and a spiritualist, and really now as a father, when I have to explain to my daughter systems which are not very kind, which are not very loving, and so on. But let me get into that in a little bit. I just want to talk about the article first. And so it says Dr. Kaur removed the items from the table and returned to give them their jabs, and so on and so forth. And right at the end of the article, you can go up and read this article on Channel News Asia. And it said the trial continues. And so I was very interested. And it did say in the paragraph above, Mr. Chong said he needed some time to show the material inconsistencies between at least two statements Mr. Lim had previously given and the testimony he had just given orally in court. Now, I thought that would be interesting. Obviously, I could have been wrong, but I went today and I was not wrong. It was very interesting. And it continued. This exact thing continued. And Mr. Chong and Mr. Lim were talking for the whole time I was there, which is after lunch. And basically going back and forth. And the judge also stepped in at several points to make some notes, I believe. I could be wrong. I don't really know what judges do, but it seems like he was taking notes. And encouraging the witness to talk. And I think that the judge was a fantastic judge, like being very nice. And when I say nice, meaning warm and welcoming, and asking the witness to clarify the points that they were unclear on, and giving him ample space and time to speak and say what he had to. And I'm commenting on that particular trait because I am a counselor and I've seen clients and I have testimonials. They're on my website. Feel free to check them out. So I do that for a living, and I really, really appreciate when somebody allows another person to speak. Which, by the way, I'm just going to add some drama in here. I was not allowed to do it in 2 WhatsApp groups recently, and I got kicked out of 2 conscious groups. More on that in the upcoming videos. I have a lot to say about that topic. But yeah, so we'll get there. So the first thing I want to talk about is the article, the headline, the lines, and why I went. That's right. I also wanted to witness how court works in Singapore. It's a very nice open concept for the public at the back. In the front, it's the court proceedings, and the people who are on trial. I believe the correct phrase is on trial. I could be wrong. Of course, they were sitting on one side, and there were some police officers on the right hand side of the audience. And at one point, one police officer came up to me and said, "You're not allowed to use your headphones," because I was listening to a voice message from a friend who I'm friends with many entrepreneurs, and we really don't have the time to just keep typing. So we send voice notes. It's just faster to talk than to type. I mean, unless you're very good at typing or something. I just can't foresee that because the speed I talk is way faster than the speed I type. So as busy entrepreneurs, we do that. So I was listening to a voice message from a friend. So I told the police officer, and he was like, "Okay, cool, now put it away." I was like, "Great." And then, so that happened. And so the rest of the proceedings was very nice. There was some very interesting behavior by the lawyer. I say interesting, maybe it's boring to people who've been in courts a lot. I've only seen this in movies and films. It was rather interesting, where at one point he was, I don't know if the word is cross-examining, but he was, and I wouldn't say arguing, but he was getting a little, I don't know if the right word is upset, but a little agitated that the witness was repeatedly saying something which seemed to go against what the witness had said previously. I don't know the full context of the case, but I believe what was happening in the courtroom today was that paragraph where he says material inconsistencies. I could be wrong. It said Mr. Chong said he needed some time to show the material inconsistencies between at least 2 statements Mr. Lim had previously given. The lawyer seemed a bit flummoxed, to be honest. He was a little like, "But you just said that. Didn't you just say that?" And statements like that. And that was, for me, that was very entertaining. For the witness, I'm sure it was not entertaining. I'm sure he was maybe, I mean, could be wrong, but maybe he was a bit scared, or maybe he was a little not scared, but um, saying it slowly, because I mean, and taking its time to get it accurately, because this is the Singapore law, and we don't want to mess around. So the Singapore law, and I guess every law on earth, are a bit of a double-edged sword, because while they allow you to live in a nice, safe city, the laws also have to be very strict, because otherwise, how would you have a nice, safe city? I mean, one could argue spiritually, there's multiple ways to have a nice, safe city, but I think you understand what I'm saying. So that's what happened, and then now, the next thing I want to talk about is what I remember during COVID. So, for those of you who are new to Iris Co and this whole healing the divide chat group and just work and Zoom calls and whatever it is that um, I wouldn't know whether to call it a group or a mission or a calling or a nice sentiment. Let me just call it a sentiment, because that's what the phrase says, healing the divide, right? So, if there's a divide, we want to heal the divide. And spiritual, I don't know if that's what she meant, but spiritually, I can speak to that in the sense that it's a very useful phrase, because on earth, we're trying to achieve unity, because that is the opposite of what's currently happening, which is wars, fights, So people are at odds with each other. So that's division, dividing. And so we want to bring everybody together, and that would be unity. And so I enjoy the phrase healing the divide. And what I remember during COVID was that Miss Iris was speaking up a lot on socials, but then again, so was everybody. I mean, but let me get to that part in a sec. So Iris was speaking up a lot about how I believe, from what I remember, just gonna take a sip of water here. She did say, from what I remember, that she was explaining or saying that perhaps some of these unknown chemicals could be harmful. I could be wrong, but that's what I remember. Feel free to contact Iris or look at her wall to figure out the truth. But I believe that is the truth. But here's the funny thing, which I personally find funny, is I think me and 5 million other people were saying the same thing. Maybe 500 million at this point, because the population is 8 billion, and half the world, I mean, just using a rough figure here, but half the world was like, yo, what are we taking again? What's in that? Right. And I remember being, sorry, I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so I gotta make sure my shirt looks straight or something, or it makes it look like I have a tummy. Anyway, half the world was um stating and searching, like, what's in this thing we're being mandated to take by various governments. I have friends worldwide, because if you've been on Facebook long enough, you get friends worldwide. That's just what happens. And so, and if your work is quite wide in a sense, so I've done a few different industries, kind of thing. And so that's what happened. Everybody, I had friends in my wife's friend circle who were mostly at that time expats. I had local friends. I had local friends who had gone overseas to work in companies, Google, Tesla. I had local friends working in companies like P&G, A Star. I had another group of friends working in small SMEs and also who are self-employed, right? And like insurance agents, real estate agents, musicians, artist managers, so on and so forth. I was in touch with everybody, like people from the Sam Willows, just music industry people. I have a group on Facebook called Singapore Music, about 6,000 people big. Uh, Strangely, we weren't actually discussing any vaccine related stuff in that group or health related stuff. I tried to put a few health sort of gifs, like eat healthy, turmeric, it kills the bacteria, whatever, that type of stuff. But yeah, it was mostly musicians whining about how there were no more gigs and how people's livelihoods were being taken away, including mine. So rightly so for the whining, of course. I mean, we weren't making money, so that was crazy. But mostly I remember that the whole world, across all these groups, socioeconomics, even helpers, by the way. So if you say like, oh, you seem to be like from the upper middle class. No, I'm not really from the upper middle class. Um, I would say we're just a middle class family, actually. And so we're friends with everybody, people right up there and right below. So because of my dad is like the head priest for Zoroastrianism in Singapore. I'm a priest too, but now I'm more of a free thinker, but I might go back on Sundays. So priests, just everybody, even helpers, because we are nice people. So or I mean, to me, that's the norm, but I heard that's called being nice, which is, even if I do say so myself, but it's the truth, which is we're nice to all our helpers. We treat them like family. And so because we treat them like family, we're in touch with all our past helpers. and their families overseas. And so, we were just calling everybody as most people on earth were, and figuring out like, hey, what's going on in your country? What's going on in your country? Everybody was trying to figure out what's in these things. And then you get these articles, right, from like Reuters and BBC and maybe even Singapore media. I stopped listening to the news 20 years ago because it was too negative for me at the time. And I really wanted to just focus, just pure entrepreneur monk mode on my music stuff. And I managed to get some music featured on MTV and so on. That was, I believe, a past life. Now I do other things, but I still produce music sometimes. And so you get all these articles and things that say, hey, this is what's in the vaccine, and that's what's in the vaccine. And then you get supposedly proposing it as healthy, right? Or good for you, or safe, or just what we need to eradicate this disease. Or at least that's what I think they were trying to say. Maybe I'm dumb. Maybe the pro government articles in all the countries were saying, no, it's not that safe, but we need everybody to take it. Now, maybe they were saying that. I'm just talking very layman, very basic terms here, right? So maybe they were saying, let's say they were saying it's good. Let's just use the word good. I don't like to use the words good and bad because those are human constructs and there's no actual such thing in metaphysics and energy and atoms. But let's just say that for a sec. So if the vaccines were good, then you would have the other side on media, in the media, and everywhere else saying why the vaccines were bad, right? This is an easy to understand terminology I'm giving you, good and bad, right? Good for you, bad for you, kind of thing. And so my question was, and for me and my family, we're like, okay, but how do we know who to believe? I don't work in a lab. I don't look at this. It's not as simple as, oh, here's some fire. Ooh, if you touch fire, fire is hot, you get burnt. Is it really fire? Is it worse than fire? Is it not fire? How would you actually know if you're trying to actually find out? So if you say, oh, no, I'm too busy with my day job, I'll just do what the government says. Great, do it. Oh, I'm too busy with my day job, but you know what? I don't trust the government. Governments all over the world always lie. I don't trust them. Okay, don't trust them. Fine. But for me and my family, we were confused as hell because I believe in finding out stuff. That's just how I've done my life so far. I like to learn. And so I was really confused. I actually put out a YouTube video saying, is COVID even real? And some people in the US were commenting like, how can you say that? My family member died. And I was like, okay. And I explained, I said, first, I'm not saying it, I'm asking, because maybe the Singapore government did such a good job of concealing it and like preventing it that at one point I was like, is this even a real disease? And some anti-conspiracy theory groups had said that to me. They said, Zeph, you know what? What if the Singapore government has done such a good job that you actually now think, or at least half the media, like I said earlier, worldwide, thinks it's a conspiracy. Because your government has done such a good job, you're in such a privileged position, you don't even know because it's that good a job that they've done. So there's that possibility. And there's also the possibility of, we are just being asked to take something, which we don't know what it is. And that was my reality, actually. Actually, both were kind of realities. Maybe they controlled it. Some conspiracy theories went as far as to say, maybe it's a fake disease. Maybe it's not real. But everyone I contacted overseas, just to keep my mind balanced at that time, they all said, no, it's real. Your government's doing a good job of containing it. I was like, okay, fine, because I haven't seen a single case with my eyes. This was before I actually got it, or what I think was it. Because again, it's just a sickness in my body. How do I know that's COVID? What is COVID? There's so many questions, right? There's so many questions. But anyway, let's make this simple. So as a layman, what I remember is Iris speaking up a lot, just like a million of my other friends online, worldwide, everywhere, Singapore, outside Singapore, and saying, concerned friends saying, do we actually even know what's in this? Some people, some scientists and doctors around the world were like, we know what's in it, don't take it. I was like, oh. Other scientists and doctors were like, we know what's in it, take it. I'm like, okay. Other doctors I contacted in the UK were like, we don't know what's in it, but just take it because the government said. I'm like, okay. So there's all four spectrums. There's like, don't know what it is, but don't take it. Don't know what it is, but take it. Know what it is, but take it. Know what it is, but don't take it. So how could you possibly decide? But I appreciated the fact that Iris had a music background, I believe from her social media. I saw that. And I read faces for a living. And of course, some of you might be like, oh, that's bullshit. That's not true. Think what you like. And when you see a person's face, you can tell if they're up to no good, they're entrepreneurial, they are gentle, they're kind, they're loving, they're angelic, they pray to God every day. You can make out the aura. It's not that hard. Or maybe that's just my skill, like a face reader. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I can tell, or at least I think I can tell. And so to me, her husband, the group she was in, um, just didn't seem like somebody who's trying to cause a problem. It seemed more like people who were just being kind, like as kind as if you're walking, sometimes we're walking on the traffic lights in Singapore, and an old auntie's pushing her stuff near the market. I live near the market, so sometimes they fall. Then two or three of us guys nearby or ladies nearby would pick up everything for them, and that kind of kindness. It was just like, hey, just make sure yeah, okay, yeah. Just make sure you know what you're taking. Like, even if Iris or anybody else telling us to make sure doesn't even know what's inside the vaccine, maybe the vaccine's great. Still, I would say personally that is a nice gesture. It is a gesture of love and kindness. It is a gesture of just make sure you know what you're taking. For you, not for me, for you, right? Just make sure you know what you're taking. Or do you know what you're taking? Or I heard this. See, for me, I'm a person who likes to learn, and I think the school I went to, um, which was RI, I think many of us like to learn. Or I could be completely wrong because I was the last kid in RI, to be honest with you. I just got in at the cutoff score. And when I went there, I was shocked at how much these other kids knew. I did not know that much stuff about studies and life and science and all these things. So maybe I like to learn because I'm dumb. I don't know. Maybe they already knew these things. Okay. But I'm just saying that because I think that it was my educational background that made me interested to learn. I could be completely wrong. Maybe that's just my character. And so for me, when people are throwing out information like this, it's very exciting because I love to write all of those down and go on a research spree and just go study the thing for myself. And to me, call this conditioning, or you can call this like, oh, you're too worried, you're too like traumatized by your childhood. Like, be careful of this and this and this. Wouldn't you have it as a synchronicity? Right as I'm saying that, look at what the Coke can says. The Coke can says Team Kiasu. Okay. So maybe that's just my conditioning. I'm having Coke because it helps me with the gastric stuff, or at least I think it does. And so usually I don't have soft drinks. And so, as I'm a holistic health coach, but let's carry on. So to me, it's very exciting because I can go do my research. Now, apparently, that was a problem for the Singapore government. I'm just checking my notes here. Yeah. Apparently, there was a problem for the Singapore government because it seems like they were going after her for something. And as I was, talking today with the different people at the courtroom and just the audience and just other friends outside, I thought like maybe they have a problem with a lot of the things that she did. Personally, I don't know what the problem is. I don't know if she's actually caused anything. I've not actually seen anything. I've just seen news about court cases and the lawyer said this and the witness said that, but I don't actually know what she did, if anything at all. Because what I remember on Facebook and social media was her saying, be careful. And the healing the divide, I believe, I could be completely wrong, and Iris can clarify this, but I believe the healing the divide was, in my mind at least, I could have understood it completely wrong. In my mind, it was to not have some people be completely healthy after the vaccine and not have some people completely injured after the vaccine. Because there was tons of reports of people getting injured, right? People just taking the vaccine and dying. People just having some heart pain after that. I was having heart pain after that. So it was like I was feeling really weird for the next few days after I believe it was the second jab. Yeah, I was pretty weird after. The first jab was all right. The second jab, I felt really bad after that for a couple of days. And there was pain right here. And so lots of scientists and doctor friends from overseas were like, here's a detox protocol, how to remove this and that. I wouldn't know. I mean, I understand the word detox because I'm a health coach, but I wouldn't know the actual science and the molecules and so on. And as far as I remember, she was posting things that kind of agreed with my mindset, which is try to be healthy, don't randomly take things you don't know, If you really want to take them, great. That's your own free will. But first, find out what you're taking. That's what I remember. I could be wrong. I'm not an official media reporter. This is just my own social media. So it's about what I feel. So sorry if it's not encompassing what the entire population feels, but that's what I feel. And so, yeah. And so I did a video about how I feel about vaccines. I don't know if I've already mentioned this. I'll link it in the YouTube description if you're watching there. Um, and it kind of blew up on TikTok. I mean, for me, blow up is a few thousand views. So because I'm like not well known, but that's what happened to that video. And so because spiritually, I feel like taking a something that you don't know. Usually, the Singapore government is very educational. Here's a health pyramid. Here's a food pyramid. Here's labels and this and that and everything. But this time around, they were like, "Take it or you can't go to a mall. Take it or you can't go here. Take it or you can't go." I was like, "Whoa, this is some." It has if it's indeed protecting the population, that's fantastic. But it has the potential to almost be a kind of oppression because in spirituality, we say that everybody has free will. Now, if you do something that takes away somebody's free will, and simple to understand examples are murder. I mean, assuming they didn't want to die, murder, rape, um, really just forcing your kid to do something. It's all oppression, right? It's forcing because you're taking away the free will. So the person goes, "I disagree," and you take away the free will, and you say, "No, you have to." I mean, let's be honest. Even God doesn't say you have to. I mean, if you're from some religions, you might be like, "No, no, no. God said I have to do this and I have to do that." Fine, your beliefs, good for you. I don't really believe that. If anything, I believe God or priestesses, priests, prophetesses, prophets, they have come to earth on various times. Um, I might be a modern day prophet. You might be a modern day prophet. Every teacher is a modern day prophet. Every politician is, every singer, every artist, every poet, every filmmaker, really every human, because regardless of your job, actually, I'm sure you do some teaching in your house. That's teaching, right? Just like these gods and priests and everyone we talk about did. And I'm sure that they didn't say you don't have free will. Because I've read in many religious texts, spiritual texts even, that the whole point of this planet, or at least the whole point of human life, was to experience it. Of course, that could be a romanticized version. I could be completely off with reality. I don't think I am. But then again, everyone's prone to that problem of subjective realities and so on. So I'm not going to pass judgment either way or say I'm right, you're wrong, because that's exactly what I'm speaking out against right now, which is free will. So feel free to believe what you like. Um, but I find it a bit shocking that the government is that there is a trial against Healing the Divide founder Iris Ko. I personally um, don't know what it's for, in the sense that if it is, or I'm not making light of a situation at all, or the government's situation, whatever their situation may be. I haven't really heard any statements from them about this yet, just that there's a trial. Um, but what I am saying is that I don't think that asking people to follow their free will, or have a think about what they're doing next, or consider their options, is a bad thing. I think, and I'm using the word bad there loosely, like I mentioned earlier. There's only actions and consequences actually on earth, not really good and bad. But more on that in another spirit lesson video. Check my highlight or playlist called Spirit Lessons, depending on where you're watching this. Instagram and TikTok, it's called Spirit Lessons. YouTube, it's called Spirit Lessons with Zephyr. Let's move on. So I don't think there's anything bad with that. So I was really, a little shocked and surprised that there are trials going on. I was like, okay, trials for talking, like that sounds strange. Again, I could be wrong, but that was my understanding. And so that's why I went down today. And as I was researching the articles to look at and tell you guys about today, because I don't want to just talk with my opinions, I want to give you some actual facts too, like what's printed in this article. I came across another article on CNA where it says, related, doctor accused of giving fake COVID-19 jabs, says police, asked him to name. Oh, sorry, it's a longer sentence. Doctor accused of giving fake COVID-19 jabs says that the in brackets, I'm adding those in. Police asked him to name Iris Ko as mastermind. It's like, okay. So I clicked into that article. I'm just clicking there too right now, and explains how Dr. Kwa, I'm just picking out lines here. This article was written or published by Ho Wan Ting, who looks very intellectual and a lot more. I'm just looking at the photo on the article. A lot more serious than the other article writer, who was, I believe, Lydia Lam, wasn't it? Yeah. I see people for a living, so I just assess their characters, how they look. When I say how they look, I mean how the vibes they are embodying. She seems a lot more serious. 12 in the picture at least. 12th March 2025, also this year, and updated on 21st July 2025, which is recently, about a month ago at 10:34 p.m. Now, this article I only saw today after coming home before making this video, and today at the courtroom, yeah, I believe it's called the courtroom. I met, I saw Dr. Kwa, I saw Iris, I saw Iris. I believe Iris's husband was in the stands, in the audience, and they seem like very pleasant, easygoing. Um, I believe Dr. Gibson was even from the same school as me, and I'm also a certified personal trainer. And for years, people in the friend circle and other clients have asked me how to lose weight. So the first thing I look at when I see a person is their physique. I just look them up to down and go, oh, okay. And then my mind automatically starts going, they must be doing this exercise and that exercise and this sport and that sport. It's just what was the word? It's a professional, forget the word, not collateral damage, but professional, I forget the word, where, yeah, I really forget the word, where you do it as your job and then it's just something that you keep doing. So like a psychiatrist, when they go to a party, they will be, even though they want to relax, they'll be subconsciously analyzing the person's patterns, yeah, and so on. So I look at people and I immediately tell their moods. And that's why I was talking to you about the writer's pictures. And I was looking at the pictures of Dr. Gibson in this article and in the other article. He seems happy and smiling. Today he was happy and smiling at some points. And my point was about his physique. He seems like he plays soccer or some game or some sport. And it is my belief, I could be wrong, but it's my personal belief that happy, balanced, smiling people just don't go around doing things that harm other humans, right? I just don't believe that. So, I mean, one can argue, like, because it says doctor accused of giving fake COVID-19 jabs, one can argue like maybe he gave the fake COVID-19 jab because he thought the COVID-19 jab was harming people. I don't know. That's all I can think that could be the stretch of why he's being accused of something. But it just doesn't seem like the kind of person, like when you read those law stories from overseas with those really serious criminals, and you look at them and they go, either they're having a hard time in their own life and they're mentally unstable and so on. And that's why, or they were just conditioned badly by, I don't want to use the term Middle East, but this can be worldwide, honestly. But I have seen documentaries where in the Middle East, I've seen these on Netflix, actually, you can find them there, where they kidnap kids and then they train them in warfare. And you can see from the person's face, like, this is a person who looks like they want to harm humanity, right? I'm not saying they're bad humans necessarily, because everyone's born neutral. But they were made that way, let's say, by the other circumstances or captors or whatever, right? So no judgment there on that perspective. But at that point, when you see their face, it looks like, yeah, I'm going to harm humanity. You can make out, like I said at the start of this video about face readings. To me personally, my opinion, Iris and Dr. Kwa don't look like they're trying to harm anybody. And if I remember from COVID, when the government was saying like safety, 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 they didn't seem like they were trying to harm anyone as well. So logically, it would, and I was asking some of the people I met, like, it just seems off. Like, logically, it would seem that the government and Iris and Dr. Kwa would all agree with one another. Like, hey, we want the best for Singaporeans, at least that's what I want, and I'm sure that many of you watching want that too. I mean, who in their right mind wants their country to not be safe, not be happy, not be healthy, right? So it doesn't make sense to me. He seems like a very happy-go-lucky guy. This is just my non-professional assessment because I'm a content creator, but I'm also a counselor and a healer, but I don't know how much weight that holds in matters of the law. But it doesn't seem like he wants to harm anyone. And Iris doesn't seem like she wants to harm anyone either. In fact, she was asking people to check what they were doing so they don't harm themselves. So to me, this second article as well was a bit of a shock. And what really shocked me actually today when I was reading this article is that Dr. Kwa was describing, or at least the writer was describing in this article, that Dr. Kwa was held in custody, in remand. I'm just trying to find the exact word. So, yeah, he was remanded. I hope that's the way to pronounce it. From Jan 21st, 2022 to Jan 31st, 2022, when he was released. And it says, yeah, I went back to my cell and broke down again in my cell. Why was he held in remand for what? Like, even if you say, and according to these articles, I'm just vamping here, but sorry, that's a music term. I'm just elaborating. Even if he gave out fake COVID-19 jabs, which is what, according to these articles, it's saline, right? Apparently. Why does, and I've always had a problem with this, with the Singapore legal system, in the sense that I don't agree with the death penalty, personal opinion. I don't think we should kill people to show that killing is wrong. To me, that's stupidity. I could be wrong. I mean, not could be wrong, but that's my opinion. But the government might have another view on it. I'm like, no. It seems like stupidity to use effort, but here's why it's not stupid. It's actually very intelligent. Sure, I'm sure they have their counter arguments, right? And I believe one of the ministers has been interviewed on different podcasts. I believe it was the Daily Catch-Up podcast or something. One of the Indian ministers was being interviewed there. The one with the similar hairstyle to me. And so he explained and so on. So, but I just don't understand why you would. And the doctor said, it says after he was charged, Dr. Kwa said he felt even more devastated. Why? And he seems to be like a family man. I'm assuming he could be. Why would you put someone like that in jail or custody, remand, whatever you want to call it? It doesn't make sense. It says I was crying in the cell. Yeah, so it must be a kind of jail, lockup. After he was processed into lockup, Dr. Kwa said he broke down in the cell. It says, yeah, I was first handcuffed, which shocked me greatly. It shocks me too. I was like, in my mind, as I was reading this, I was like, wait a second. I thought the only crazy thing about the Singapore law system, and I'm using the word crazy loosely here, what I mean is the only like unkind thing, was the death penalty. But this seems a bit excessive. Of course, I'm thinking further and I'm going, maybe during COVID or this time, or the government views this very, I was about to say importantly, they view it in a very important way, in a very crucial way rather. So maybe that's why they see the need to put him there. But as I'm thinking further, I'm realizing they're not spoiled children, right? It's the government. Some very mature people in there. They couldn't possibly be putting him in a cell just because they were angry. I mean, that's what I might do with a friend. Not put them in a cell, but like I was angry at my friend, so I didn't see him for 2 weeks. Like, yeah, okay, you're a regular adult. Do it with your friends. Government people, feel free to do it with your friends in your personal life, right? But this seems a little excessive. It's like, to me, it's like, why do you need to put somebody in lockup if they gave somebody saline? Does saline solution harm anybody? No. Have those people dropped dead because of the virus? No. I mean, I'm assuming they haven't. So what's the problem? Like, he didn't follow the orders from the health ministry? Okay. Why don't you teach him about the orders and say, like, here's a stern warning. You do this again, you're out. There's no need to put somebody in jail for that. That's my opinion. And if you watch this video, or the government watches this video, anybody watches this video and says, you're urging people to not be violent and you're urging people to not put people in cells. Yeah, I am urging that. I would like to urge all of us to be more peaceful, happy, and adopt that story. You hear that story. There's a tribe in Africa. You always see this on social media. There's a tribe in Africa. When they do something wrong, everybody stands around them and hugs them and showers them with love and goes, if you were coming from a loving place, you would not have done this wrong thing. So let's give you love. I support that theory. Like, you don't have to lock somebody up. So, I mean, that is, if this is happening, I could be reading the events wrong, but if this locking up is happening, because actually, let's read. Let's see why he was locked up. No, it does. Recounted in court the events leading up to and after he had been arrested for his alleged offenses. Okay, let's go research the alleged offenses. Not in this video, but okay. If he had already committed offenses, if he had already committed offenses, and you say, here's the human system we have on earth right now, it's jails for those who commit offenses. I don't really agree with jails, but okay, if you say that. But it seems like he had not yet committed the offenses. I could be wrong. Because if he had, then what would the need be for a case? Aren't cases where they prove that they committed offenses? Or do they decide beforehand that they committed offenses? I'm not trying to be sarcastic. I actually don't know the order of events, but I'm just going by the loving humanitarian approach. In my mind, if I ran a government, I could be totally wrong about how it runs. But in my mind, in the sense that they could be actually very kind, but I'm assuming that they're not kind. In my mind, if I ran a government, I would say, okay, it seems like you've done this offense. We're not sure. Have you? The person goes, if they say yes, okay, then you talk about next steps. But if they say no, then I would go, okay, you're saying no. We're going to do our own research. If we find out that you have, because you're a stranger, I've never met you before, I'd like to do some research on you. That's fair. Go do some research. If we find that you have, then we'll talk about the next steps, because then you're lying. So then we'll talk about the next steps for doing it and for lying. Be fair, I would do that. And then I'd go do that. We go do research. At no point do I need to put them in a jail. I mean, okay, you can lock down the country to them. Okay, don't let this man leave the country while we examine this. Sure. But why do you have to put them in a jail? What does that actually achieve? That's my spiritual message for today. Locking somebody up doesn't actually achieve anything. Unless you're saying this is a stone cold killer going around injecting people with things in the middle of the night on a traffic light. Okay. Then you want to lock them up or restrain them. Again, I'm nobody to comment on that. Go talk to a psychiatrist and use their expert advice. But unless it was something that drastic, I wouldn't be locking up people. So whoop-de-doo. So there's that. So that's all I'm going to say for today. I'm going to go back on Monday, because this part in this article where they say, I'm not sure I'm allowed to say exactly what happened in the courtroom, but this part, which is printed in the article, it did continue, where he said, Mr. Chong said he needed some time to show the material inconsistencies. I don't know what the word material there means, but there were inconsistencies between at least two statements Mr. Lim had previously given and the testimony he had just given orally in court. Yeah. What I think I can say is that something like that was happening again today, but I believe that's already implied in the article, where it says the trial continues. So it continued today. Was in that sense, it was quite boring. In the sense, it was not a very exciting day. In the sense, it just continued in that same vein, and he continued to need some time to show, and they were discussing back and forth for him to try to show it, and it continued. And then the judge called the court at about 4:52, I believe it was in my clock. And he said, there's Family Friday Day for the judge, for the law. I don't know what the office is called, but that organization, some Family Friday thing. And they were saying everybody go home and family time and something like that, which is great, I believe, in my opinion. And so it continues on Monday. I'll try to be there on Monday as well and see if I can do another video like this and find out what I can say and what I can't say. But eventually, obviously, it'll all be out in the press and so on, so you'll find out anyway. But I wanted to do this to reflect on this important topic, which I think is an important topic, of course. You might not, which is that we need to be, I'm hoping, and I like to take this as an open letter to the Singapore government, or any government really. And I've written these before on my socials, which is, can we please try to be a little bit kinder to people who we believe have crossed us, for lack of a better term, or the law, or anything. If they're not threatening lives, like I gave you that example of a random person going around jabbing people with random things. If it's not a scene out of a movie or something, these are our Singapore citizens. Can we exhibit a little more kindness, a little more love, a little more patience, even, a little more. They are exhibiting patience in terms of stretching out the court case, and the way the judge acted today, in my personal opinion, was very kind. And that's great. I want to see more of that personally as a Singapore citizen, if my voice counts at all. I'd love to see that. And that is a country I would feel proud to raise my daughter in. And when my daughter says, Daddy, what's happening here? And I'm like, this is happening because this is how we treat humans. Right now, I'm not sure I can tell her how we treat humans. in this country. I mean, in terms of the death penalty, I'm not going to tell her that. That's crazy for a child's mind to absorb. So if she accidentally opens up a newspaper, that's why we don't bring newspapers into the house. If she accidentally opens a newspaper and reads "man hanged for," I'm screwed. Because if she asks me, Daddy, what's hanged? I've taken an oath to not lie to my daughter, right? Unless it's a white lie, um, needed for upbringing. Like if traffic's coming straight at her and I just quickly lift her up from under her arms, I mean, that's why I exercise. So I can do that, lift her up and put her down. She goes, "Hey, why did you lift me?" I was enjoying the big red shape coming at my face. You know, I'll say, "I'm sorry." And then I might not explain to her the full extent of the grotesque damage that will befall her body, touch wood, if a vehicle's rushing at her, right? But I will say, you could get hurt, baby. You could this, you could that. Whatever is the level of understanding of a 6-year-old, right? Now, I want to continue telling that form of truth and not lie to my daughter. And I don't believe in double standards necessarily at all, actually. So, we need to stop this in Singapore. That's my wish. That is my hope. That is what I hope for as a Singapore citizen. And I hope it can carry on. I hope that happens worldwide. We don't need to. That phrase really gets me every time. Why do we kill people to show that killing is wrong? You know? It's crazy. And in some cases, not even killing. They're not even killing. I'm not saying we should peddle drugs or anything. In fact, I don't even smoke. I don't even drink. I'm a very good boy in that sense. But I believe, I don't know if it was what's his name, Mr. Shanmugam. I just can't remember all the politicians' names, but he was on the Daily Catch Up podcast, and he told them, he said, when I believe it was the lady, the girl was asking the question and said, at least I think she's a girl because she dresses like a guy and has a boycott, what we call in India a boycott, or at least my Indian parents, like they grew up in India. We're Persian, but they grew up in India. They call it a boycott. She said to him, like, don't. Some people were saying, don't you think it's too harsh? And then he said, you're looking at the harshness of what we're doing to the victim or the victim's family. You're not looking at 100 other families that we're saving. But are we actually saving them from death or just something less sinister? I don't want to use the word sinister because spiritually death is a good thing or just a stage. But are we actually saving them from death? So why do we kill people to show that killing is wrong? But hey, they didn't even do killing. They were just selling drugs or whatever they were doing, which may have led to certain drug users dying, but it may not have led to them dying. We don't know. So some countries, that phrase applies. Why do we kill people to show that killing is wrong? Yes. But here they were not even killing and we're killing them. So to me personally, from a kindness perspective, that's very drastic. Like if I ever got the death penalty, I think my life would turn upside down, emotionally. I mean, spiritually, I'll be like, okay, this is the end and it's going to last 5 minutes or however they do it. I don't know. Fine. But like, what would your family remember? How, I mean, I'm trying to put myself in their shoes and I don't even understand how families like that cope. So I think Singapore, we need to move slightly away from the harsh, barbaric punishments like a death penalty, like, and even in this scenario, like the doctor was sent to jail for giving saline, if he did give saline. I mean, hoping the government got that right, by the way, otherwise that would be quite embarrassing. And I hope he, did whatever was necessary health-wise, what he thought right as a doctor. I can't comment on any of it, like what is right, what is wrong. I wouldn't know. I'm not a doctor, and of course he has his own free will, so I'm nobody to say anything about that. But it's a bit harsh. This whole thing seems a bit harsh. Maybe I'm being overly sensitive. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'll link another video in the description about being a highly sensitive person. That's me. But honestly, if we all tune into our emotions, I think that's all of us. So I'll leave you guys here. This has gone on for long enough. And I know on TikTok, people like the longish videos. Hopefully this one takes off as well. If it doesn't, I hope it provides you some peace, some understanding of this matter. And I do wish Iris and her husband and all her family members and Dr. Kwa and his family members, and also I believe it was Dr. Kwa's assistant at the time. I could be using the wrong word, their assistant, Thomas Trapp, Cheng Soon. I wish all of them like the best. And I also wish the government the best in the sense in doing what is healthy and aspiring towards a healthier, more holistic, kinder, loving sort of governance. And sometimes, and I can just share a life lesson here, we're in the middle of something we're doing, which we might look at our own actions and go, wait a sec, is this really necessary? Then we reflect and then we improve. And that's how all improvement has ever been done, in my opinion. So hopefully the government goes like, wait, this might be a little too harsh. Like, do we really need to put somebody through trial after trial after trial just for saying something? Um, in other countries, there's apparently free speech and all these things. So these are all things to weigh and think about. And I'm sure they do that. I'm sure they do that. But this is just my opinion as a citizen that maybe we could do that a little bit more and not throw people in jail for giving saline if he indeed gave saline or whatever, or even if he didn't give anything. I mean, I don't know. Like, you can read the article. There's lots to imagine over there, and you can think about a lot of things. But hoping we can all be kinder. We can all be the stuff we talk about in the Singapore Pledge. One people, one nation, one Singapore. Or is that a National Day song? We, the citizens of Singapore, pledge ourselves. There's one united nation. There you go. So I hope we can be united, regardless of race, language. I believe there was something like that in there, right? Race, language, or religion. Yeah, I said that like 5,000 times when I was in primary school. So we should do that. Not just race, language, or religion, but also our beliefs, our wants, our needs, our thoughts. Mental health is a big thing nowadays. It's always been, but nobody really spoke about it. So yeah, I really feel like we should be kinder to each other, more loving. And I really wish all of these people and all of us really the best outcome possible from this. The happiest one, the healthiest one, the most relaxed, kind, and loving one, where everyone, if anybody's done anything wrong or harmful, they can learn about how not to do something harmful, hopefully with a supportive government, really supporting them along this journey. Maybe the government would like to look at themselves and go, oh yeah, we could have done this kinder, and support themselves along that journey. Hire the right professionals they need. I believe in big organizations, it's HR or something along those lines, to really teach them how to, govern better or sort of run the organization better. Changing laws and all that, I'm not sure who that falls under, but that's my wish, is that everything becomes kinder, more loving, and more relaxed. I'm going to take a break now and go away and end the video here because I need to rest because I'm on medication. Thank you so much for listening if you listened until here. And I really look forward to your support by liking, subscribing, sharing, reposting. If you feel it's beneficial to anybody at all, feel free to comment and say like, hey, I agreed with this. Hey, I disagree crazily with this because I should stop using the word crazily. I think it was just pushed down to us by pop culture. Or I don't know which culture, but what I mean is like, I disagree heavily with this because blah, 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 blah. Feel free to share opinions. I'm not going to shut you down. I'm not going to insult you. I may intellectually discuss with you. We could have a discourse, but I'm not going to like be rude or anything. And I also do not tolerate any rude comments on my socials. I don't tolerate rudeness from anyone. I don't care what your opinion is. I don't care if you're the government. If you're being rude to me, I'll tell you you're being rude to me. And so, yeah. So feel free to disagree. We can go back and forth. If it's a good point that you're disagreeing on or even agreeing on, we can make a whole new video about it and honor you. There's so many possibilities, my friends. Take care, be well, be healthy. I know I'm drinking a Coca-Cola, but I swear I don't do this often. So it's pretty bad for the health, but it somehow the gassiness or whatever, I'm sure scientists can explain, eases the tummy pain for some reason. Okay, guys, take it easy and see you on the next one. This has been Zephyr. Bye-bye.